Hey everybody, it's Dan here from SAP UK. I'm just coming on and doing a podcast, so I've kind of changed my vibe a little bit. I think sometimes it's a bit difficult to do videos because it's a public appearance, so you have to be like okay looking and not always everybody's okay looking, myself included. Like right now I'm sat here in my dressing gown, which is perfect 'cause I'm not feeling too great. But I thought, do you know what, I'm going to come on and I'm going to test this podcast because all in all, the reason why I'm doing this podcast is to prevent suicide, and the reason why I do videos is to prevent suicide. But if I'm not within capacity to do a video, then at least I'm going to be within capacity to do a podcast, which is perfect, really, because it's going to get the goal across, which is to prevent suicide. So, my mission with these podcasts really is that I can be a bit more myself, which is something that I do struggle with when I make videos because it's not 100% myself. Because when you make videos, you have to like structure them to a degree, so you have to like plan them out. You can't like do anything like you can't mess up properly. Like there's a lot of things that you are limited with when you make a video. So I thought podcast perfect. Um, so yeah, here I am. Hey, I'm Dan, and for anybody who doesn't know who I am, I prevent suicide at SAP UK. So in 2016, I lost my stepdad to suicide. He took his own life, and it's something that I will never forget because I was visually impacted by this. So, and it physically and mentally destroyed me. It took a lot to be able to come back from what I saw. So, over the months of losing my stepdad, I started to prevent suicide, and it just kind of took off from there. And over time it became apparent it wasn't just me wanting to prevent suicide. There were many others as well. So SAP UK's team formed, and you know what, the team is absolutely amazing. So I thought on these podcasts what I'll do is I'll kind of always talk about suicide prevention. I'll always like give positive messages. I'll always be positive unless I'm coming on for a moan, which I've got a few things that I genuinely want to moan about, like in this suicide prevention world, like the business side of it, which is something that I actually can't wait to get into. And then it's gonna be like, what's this podcast actually for? Is it for mourning or is it for preventing suicide? But do you know what? I'm always gonna be preventing suicide regardless of any other factors. Like I've been I've actually been preventing suicide from like such a young age because my brother's been struggling with suicidal actions, thoughts, tendencies, like since he was a very young. But from that, he's doing okay. I'm doing okay. Like everyone's doing okay, which is amazing. But yeah, so what I thought I'd do is I'll come onto the podcast. I'll kind of just talk into this microphone. I need to figure out whether I can swear or not because sometimes like I will end up like kind of tripping over myself and maybe chucking out a little swear. And yeah, so I want to make sure that's okay, or I'll have to just bleep it out, whatever. Um, so yeah, so each podcast is going to be different. I'll probably bring in some topics at some points. And it'll always, well, not always, like I probably will like move away from suicide prevention at points, but it'll always kind of filter down to suicide prevention because it is literally what I'm on this earth for, and I truly believe that. But so this first podcast is going to be like maybe an introduction into myself and SAP UK, and then going on from there, it'll just be me yabbing on about suicide prevention, and it'll be me talking about like other things that I'm doing maybe, and other things that's going on. And do you know what I'm definitely going to do? I'm definitely going to bring the SAP UK team onto here. Like there's a few of them that just absolutely wind me up so much, so get them on here so I can wind them up. No, I'm only joking. We've just got Becky who just deletes everybody like all the time, so I want to get her on, wind her up on here. But yeah, so I think today maybe I'll just introduce you to me and SAP UK, and then go on from there. I don't know how long these are meant to be, so we'll try and just keep it like I don't know how long they're meant to be. I'll just talk until I've finished talking, which isn't usually that long, so I get bored. But yeah, so I'm Dan. I'm actually Danielle. A lot of people always think I'm a boy, so I've had to start putting she on my name, so it's Dan, she. And so, like last year when I was doing the project, no, the year before, oh, I don't know, it was one of the years I was doing the project. And I didn't have a profile picture, I just had a picture of the project. So it was, for anyone who doesn't understand the project I'm talking about, it's a semicolon tattoo project. I'll talk about that at some point. So yeah, when I was doing the project a few years ago, obviously I talked to so many different tattoo studios, and then I was having a proper good laugh with one of them, and he was like, just chatting to me, blah blah blah. Anyway, the next year goes on, we're chatting again, proper good banter. The next year goes on, and I've got a profile picture this last year. No, it wasn't. So it was 2023 that he actually realised, so I had a profile picture, and he messaged me and he was like, "You are a girl." He was like, "Are you joking me?" He said, "For years since I've actually known you, I thought you was a boy." And I was just like, oh my goodness me. And it wasn't like, so everyone was calling me mate, pal, like I was getting all these like boy abbreviations, but I was just rolling with it because my mission at that point was just to get tattoo studios involved with the tattoo project. So I was just like, yeah, that's cool, whatever, boy. You'll realise one day. So yeah, so I'm Danielle, and I am in my 30s, and I have a little boy. I'm very, very independent. I don't really speak to none of my parents that much. It's a bit of a tough situation. I probably won't speak too much on that at the moment because I don't want to like touch on any nerves. Not that it would really matter because it's there's a lot of distance there anyway. So I will talk about that at some point. I have two amazing brothers. So I've got a twin brother, absolutely love him to bits, and I have an older brother, and he is my inspiration. Like my older brother has literally been my dad, my mum. Like it's been all of them wrapped into one. And like this year, me and my brother, me and my twin brother have always been like super close because we're twins, and we've always been very supportive of each other, and we completely understand each other, like what we've been through and what we've seen and how we've had to like kind of support ourselves and things, and we both kind of understood that. Whereas like my older brother, he moved out, well, he got removed from the home at 13 years old, so he didn't really like see from my age of like 7, he didn't see that like much more, and plus he's quite inattentive too, so we weren't like as close, me and my older brother. Like, we were always really, really close, but there was a lot that was misunderstood. So like this year he's come home from travelling just for a short period of time, and he's kind of like, well, we've had like a massive chat. We ended up having a drink one night, and we just kind of spoke about everything, and we were both like, wow. And it was like, it was a day that was meant to be going to see our parent, and we decided not to, and instead we went to go see my twin brother James. And it's like we had such an eye-opening experience. It was absolutely incredible. Maybe I'll talk about that one day as well, like what we actually spoke about and stuff like that, and how but like from that though, how what I learned from it was how important it is to communicate and talk to people, especially people who've been like within grounds of like your traumas and stuff like that, because everyone's got a different perspective, and everyone has like a different understanding on views and stuff like that. So it's always really good to like talk and open up. And do you know what, like through most of my life I've never really spoke about anything. I've always kept everything to myself, and I think like this year's been probably the most like enlightening year of my whole life, because I've had so much understanding on like how I am the way I am, who I am. Like, do you know, like a lot of like things where you're just a little bit confused, and so like you might act a certain way, or you might do something, you think, why do I do that? And like I kind of just ticked so many boxes this year, so that was absolutely amazing. And if anyone's like ever struggling with any like past trauma or childhood trauma, especially when it like includes alcoholism or drugs or anything like that, then you can always reach out to me or anyone at the SAP UK team, because we're all like, especially like I'm very experienced in like alcoholism and childhood experience within these grounds, and I know that a lot of there's no safeguarding of the children at all. So anything is anything can happen, which is it's awful to even comprehend. Like, the reason why a lot of children go through a lot of things is because they aren't safeguarded as children by the adults. And that is something that I learned a lot of this year, because it kind of, like, as a mother myself, I kind of understood that, like, yeah, you might like have been around, but alcoholism and any other drugs, when you're under the influence, you aren't within capability to safeguard a child. So obviously I get that people drink here and there and everything like that, but like daily, in and out, it's you be, everything just becomes a bit clouded. So if anyone's ever struggling with anything in regards to these grounds, and if you feel like you wasn't, you feel like your traumas are due to childhood trauma, then maybe reach out and then we can have a chat about it. And that's like, it's so important as well, that when you are struggling with mental health as an adult, to maybe look back and think, well, what happened when I was a child? Why, how did I cope with things back then? Like, what did I behave like? And when you like kind of look back and be like your adult to your little child, if you will, so you kind of go, well, if I was my parent, I wouldn't have let that happen. I wouldn't have done that. And then you kind of get like an understanding on how you could have been looked after properly. And it's so surreal, like the understanding of like healing your inner child, if you will. Well, that's exactly what it is. It's healing your inner child. And I think a lot of people struggle with doing this as the inner child, to heal yourself. It's not an easy path to go down, which is why a lot of people encourage people to talk out, because when you talk out, you can get different perspectives on things. So yeah, so what I think, like with these podcasts as well, which is what just happened then, is I've got like ADHD traits, and I've got long-term depression. So, well, with the ADHD traits, I can kind of like run off on like little rabbit holes and start talking about something else. And I think when you're on a podcast, maybe that's okay. So that's super good, because that means that I don't have to look a certain way and I don't have to speak a certain way, because I can just do it as I please on the podcast, which is something that I think it works a lot better for me, because at the end of the day, all I want to do is prevent suicide, and I won't let anything stop me from doing that. So it doesn't matter where I am, I could be in bed, I'll still be able to do a podcast. So yeah, this is what I think is a good thing about them as well, because this way, if you are struggling with suicidal thoughts, you can maybe just log into whatever platform this goes on to and listen to me rabbit on about suicidal thoughts and how you're better than them and stuff like that. And maybe that'll be your distraction for the evening, and maybe you won't think about hurting yourself. And maybe your suicidal thoughts over time will get slower and quieter. So that's the ultimate goal of this. So yeah, so where did I get up to? So yeah, you know that I'm down. I'll say that a few times. No, I won't. I think I'll probably have to do that on the introduction of every podcast, because what if some people don't really listen to, I don't know, I really struggle with like listening to like, so I don't really watch TV, I listen to music. So if I have to listen to anything, I genuinely can't listen for too long, because I'll end up getting distracted and lose focus, which is part of the ADHD traits. So it's really difficult, like, processing information sometimes, because I kind of like freeze and I can't actually process, because I'm trying to like process, but I can't. It's so strange, like with my brain and stuff like that. Like, I don't actually have an internal monologue. So, and when I've like read something saying that like 90% of people do, I'm like, what? That is so bizarre. Like, I don't actually hear anything in my head at all until I get like an idea pop up, or if I've got trauma, I guess my head's very loud, because it's yeah, if I have trauma, my head won't stop. It literally, it'll keep me awake for days. But generally I don't have a monologue in there, which I guess it's really good because throughout life, when I've had like my own traumas and stuff, I've kind of been inattentive to them. But yeah, so with the like these ADHD processing that I've got, I've always really struggled with it. So I was looking back through, well, I weren't looking back actually. I ended up coming into contact with my primary school and like high school. What's the word I'm looking for? Like yearbook, end of yearbook. What's it called? Oh my goodness me. It's the most simplest thing. Wow. You know what I mean. So when they do an end of year report, so I ended up getting my year 11 and my like year 6 years of end of year report, and I was just like, wow. So one of the comments was, it's like leading the blind, like Danielle loses focus, she'd be so brighter if she like didn't lose attention so quickly, and it was just a lot of stuff like that, this, and it was like, right, well, if like all these, it's like, why didn't anyone pick it up then to give me more support? But it's, do you know what it is, like ADHD in these days, it's so different. It's treated so differently to how it was back then. Like there's three different types of ADHD, isn't there? So there's the hyperactive, there's the inattentive, and then there's the combined. Like I'd say I've never really been. I've had my moments of like hyperactivity, but I've never really been hyperactive. I've just kind of been to myself, impulsive. Absolutely does not know what day it is. Like I'll spill everything. I'll knock everything. I'll lose everything. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. But I learn. So it wasn't even me that brought this up. So like 3 years ago, I was just in uni, and I was like just went to a mental health appointment actually, because I've never actually been for any mental health support, especially like after Brian as well. I should have gone straight for counselling, but I guess like when you grow up and you don't really have that kind of support, and if you ever needed support, you had to go to yourself. You don't really turn to anybody anyway, so I kind of took the plunge, and I went to uni and I went to mental health support, and I like bounced in, got caught on the door, like scatty as anything, and he was like talking to me, and he was called Mark, and oh, it was so amazing actually. Do you know what? It helped me so much. Like, still need to send him a thank you. Oh wow, so it's been 2 years and I still haven't said thank you. I'll get it there. I'll get it there. But yeah, so I kind of like sat down with him, and he was like, "Have you got ADHD?" And I was like, "Absolutely not. Like, no, never. Like, I haven't got ADHD." Because I think when you think ADHD, you think, oh, they've got to be like angry, they've got to be like hyperactive, they've got to be like bouncing off the walls. But that's not actually the case at all, because a lot of people become like inattentive and like kind of in their own clouds, if you will. And that's the kind of ADHD that I ended up picking up, was like this kind of side to it. And it has been difficult because what always happens to me is that I'm always like really good at like an idea, and I'll get something started but I can never finish it. So I've got like 32 paintings that are unfinished. I counted them not long ago. And there's just like things like that. So if I'm ever doing anything, I really struggle finishing it. Like, so to be fair, I've actually been really good with my blogs. So I've got like quite a few blogs out. They're not persistent though at all, and nothing is ever will be persistent with me. You can't, like, I'm 100% say that to anybody, like 0% inconsistency. Like, do not expect something from me weekly. I just can't do it. I just can't do it. You know, some people just can't do it, and it's like it's a brain. It's it's neurological, so it's a brain movement that's not a brain movement, a brain path that's not, it's not there that a normal brain would have. But then what's normal? Please tell me what's normal, because if you told me what normal was, I'd probably go, well, that's not normal, because I don't really think anything's normal, because everyone's got a different view, haven't they? So what I might think's normal, you might not think's normal. And it's just so much like that. And do you know what? That is one reason why I studied psychology, is because I love that we're all so different. I love that we are all so different. And every single time that I do a group or I speak about anything, I will always start off with individual differences, because I am not the picture for who I am. I am not the picture at all. Like, and I've really struggled with imposter syndrome. So imposter syndrome is where you're like some form of being, but you can't live up to that being, or you don't think you live up to that being. And you know what? You might live up to that being. You might be 10 times over on that being, but you won't feel like you're that being. And you feel like less of you are, and you kind of like become like a shadow in this persona that you've created, and that's actually, it's actually not it's not healthy. Obviously it's not healthy. Nothing negative is healthy, but I think once you grab at an understanding on things like that, and you grab an understanding on any kind of negative impact on you, then you can start to overcome it, face your fears. And that is one main important thing like in suicide prevention, and what I've always said to everybody I've spoke to is you must be able to understand your mental health. Like, can you sit down if you have mental health, and can you label off, not label off because that might be a bit like, do you know what I mean, like a bit labelly, but can you like sit there and go, right, okay, well, I'll just do myself. Okay, so I'm avoidant, and the reason why I'm avoidant is because I was brought up in an avoidant atmosphere. So if there was ever any like complication, it was dismissed. So that's one of my like negative traits. But overcoming that, I am becoming less avoidant. So I will kind of face more of my fears and stuff like that, which is positive, which is really good. So when I'm saying I'm understanding, like, you must be able to understand. So I'm like, in my long-term depression that I have, I struggle quite a lot with this actually. So I will only get I'll probably say I'll get like 3 good days a week. Good days, I mean like good days where I'm like 100% ready, like ready to start the day, ready to do things. But then this is always like dependent anyway, because I've got pancreatitis, so like anything can kick me off. So even if I'm having like a super good day with my mental health, my pancreas might go, do you know what, love, you're sick today. And I don't mean sick as in like sick quality, I mean like sick as in not well sick. And I'll have nausea and sickness, and there's so that's another like factor for me. So I will only get like 3 good days a week, which is okay. I'm not having like 3 good days, 4 super bad days. Like I used to have like there was a point where I wasn't having a good day, and that's awful. That like for anybody to have to go through this. And do you know what? It wasn't even long ago. It wasn't even long ago that I was literally not having good days for weeks and months, because me and my little boy ended up going through some life difficulties, and it put us in a position where we were severely struggling. I'll have to talk about that another time, because I don't really want to go into that in my introduction. It's like, oh, dear diary, me. Oh, do you know what as well? Like, with that Dear Diary, I picked that up off one of my old friends, because what they say is that birds of a feather flock together. And my brother said something the other day, and nearly said something. I thought, he's caught that off me. And that's what happens as well when you're with people, like around people. You kind of like pick up their terminology. And I like love saying buzzing. I don't love saying buzzing. It's like genuinely part of my terminology now. So I'll always say buzzing. And I was like, I went to go and get a part for my van the other week, and I was like, buzzing. And the guy was like, buzzing. And he was like, we were both like so buzzing. But he was more buzzing. He was like, nobody says buzzing. Whereas I'm like, do you know what? I didn't even fucking notice. See, I just swore then. So that's what I mean. I need to just double check that part, because I don't want to like bleep it out. And plus, there's one volunteer that I want to get on here, and we've had to name her fucking Kirsty. So she swears all the time, so I want to get her on here because she's absolutely brilliant. And you know what? I want to get everyone on here. Not everybody, I can't physically go around the world and get everybody, but as many people as possible, because at SAP UK, and what is so like, the reason why I wanted to do this podcast, and I think I briefly explained it before, is because it lets me be myself, and I don't have to like put on a persona, I don't have to like put on this mask. I can literally just sit here and I can be myself, and I can have a laugh, I can joke, I can slobber out my words, I can say whatever I want. Well, not whatever I want. Yeah, I can say whatever I want. That would be absolutely ridiculous if I could literally just say whatever I wanted. Whatever I wanted with limits, because obviously there's some things that are totally irrelevant. Like I could sit here and talk about penguins all day because my little boy loves them. Like, that wouldn't be relevant at all to hear. But I could probably do like some other things. I could do some other activities and things like that. Oh, do you know what I love doing? I love debating. I love debating. So I've been trying to get debates going, like, mentally, to push them out socially. But I just can't bring myself to do it because, to be fair, I'm actually so busy doing other things and I get so distracted. And I think that, again, is how I want to do debate. I want to do it weekly. And I just not, my goodness me. The commitment of doing them weekly, I'm going to struggle. I'm going to struggle. I'm not joking. I can set an alarm. I'll still miss it. I'll still sit down to do it, but I'll have missed something, so I'll have to do that, and that's it. I've got distracted. I can write it all over the place. Like, it just doesn't. I've tried so many things just to get me persistently, like, within a routine, and I just can't do it. Well, I probably can do it. I'll probably have to just sit there, like, under severe stress or something. I'll figure it out. I will figure it out. But yeah, I really want to do, I really, really, really want to do some debates because I love a good debate and I love people's opinions. I love how people are so different as well. And which is what I was talking about before I got distracted, is I want to get the whole of the SAP UK team on here because, as I was saying before, like, I'm able to be just me on here. And I love that part because I can just, because I've already said it. I've already bloody said it. I'm not saying it again because I can just do whatever I want. Right, okay, so I've said it again. Anyway, but the rest of the team are the same, so on chat and on Facebook, we might appear as in a certain way. Like, I appear professional. I appear professional. No, I do not. I am not professional in the slightest. And do you know what? I will absolutely 100% own this because why on earth would I pretend to be something I'm not? I am not professional. Just straight up. Someone's even asked me when I've been sat there before. She's like, oh my goodness me, so what I mean, I need to get on here morning as well as suicide prevention. Like, I went to an appointment with someone and I was sat there and I just literally just started talking briefly because I just thought, do you know what, I'll just input. This woman looked at me. She looked at me up and down actually, and she went, "Have you got a manager?" I was like, no. And then the girl went, "She is the manager." She went, "Oh." And that's like, do you know what? I'll never forget that. I will never forget that. Because, you know what? I even put, like, a shirt on and everything. It weren't like an old shirt. It was like a patterned shirt. And I put, like, some smart pants on and stuff. And, like, I put glasses on. I've got glasses that I wear and I put them on. And I even had my ID badge. So I did look somewhat professional. But, yeah, that is, like... do you know, it's actually quite funny. Like, bless her little heart for judging me like that. Oh, but that's what it is. Like, you can't just judge people. You can't just assume that somebody is something that... Do you know what I mean? You don't have to look a certain way to be somebody. Like, at all. You don't have to have tattoos to work in a tattoo shop. You can have no tattoos and work in a tattoo shop. You don't have to wear makeup to work in a makeup shop. Do you know what I mean? You don't have to look professional to be a professional. It's just so bizarre that... Well, it's not so bizarre, actually, because some people are just still obviously living in the 1900s, aren't they? But it's stressful. Do you know why it's stressful? It's because the only reason why I was there was to prevent suicide. And she was literally challenging me to... What's the word I'm looking for? To belittle me in whatever goal that she had. Well, anyway, it was unsuccessful because, you know what, I'll actually laugh about it now and it actually fuels me. It makes me laugh so much and I think, oh, bless her. But the only reason why it's stressful is because there's like 5,000 to 6,000 plus, actually, in 2022 who took their own life. And the stressful part about this is that I'm here to prevent suicide. You're supposed to be here to prevent suicide. We are all supposed to be here to prevent suicide. Why are there challenges when we are trying to prevent suicide? Why is one person who's trying to prevent suicide against one person who's trying to prevent suicide? We should all be trying to prevent suicide together. There is still 6,000 people that take their life per year. And I still, do you know what, I don't think those figures are 100% either, because I think it's a lot more, especially during COVID, during that isolation period. But anyway, we won't get into that. And yeah, so that's what stresses me out, because if we were all working together, we would probably not lose as many people. But I think what the problem is I think a lot of people who are in the suicide prevention field see it as a business as opposed to a community project. And I think that's where the problem is. And the reason why a lot of people, well, it's just pays, isn't it? Everyone just gets really good wages for like sitting in a room and having a conversation about preventing suicide, but not actually preventing suicide and only challenging people who are preventing suicide. And I don't think that's okay. And I don't think what's okay is a lot of people who are within mental health end up feeling worse when trying to get help for the mental health, which is very, very sad. And it's not like everybody that, it's just some people who are in the wrong job. And I think if you are making people feel worse, especially when you work in mental health, then you should definitely get a new job. 100%. 100%. Like, don't be making our people sad, please. They're already sad. And that is why I wanted to do podcasts. So I could just come on and give everybody abuse. No, it's not at all. I've come on to do podcasts to prevent suicide, to chat, to talk to you, to make you feel good, to make sure you know that you are good enough. I nearly said make sure you are good, and I had enough on like last minute, and it kind of like rolled off a little bit. And yeah, I just wanted to make sure that everybody here knows that I'm here to prevent suicide. And if you do need anything at all, if you are struggling with anything, like anything at all, you can email me, or you can jump on the SAP UK Facebook page, drop a message to one of the volunteers, because all the volunteers are absolutely amazing. And they've all got amazing personalities, and they're all very, very individual characters. And you know what? They're all very, very selfless. And some of the volunteers we've had for years, and that itself is amazing, because they've been preventing suicide for more than enough time, and they've made a difference to so many people already, but yet they're still here trying to make this difference. And do you know, this week as well, I've been like on a volunteer recruitment, and I've been speaking to some new volunteers, and I've been asking them, so one of my questions has been, why do you want to prevent suicide? And some of the responses have been absolutely like so inspiring. Like, so many people are affected by suicide, and do you know what, so many people aren't affected by suicide, but so many people are affected by suicide too. And it's so sad, because when we lose one person by suicide, it doesn't affect like one person, it affects so many people. Like, so many people get affected by the loss of suicide, because, well, it's because it's not like, it's not a death that can be, well, it's a death that can be prevented, but it's not a death that can be explained. Like, you can't explain it. I can't tell you why Brian took his life on September the 4th, 2016. Can't tell you why Ashley Turner took her life on the 22nd of April, 2020. Oh, I don't know if it is 2020. I'll have to double check that. And I can't tell you why Scarlett took her own life on the 22nd of April, 2021. Oh, I just have to cut that bit. I'm going to have to cut that bit. Oh, that's a stupid fucking thing. And you know what? I can't tell you why Brian took his own life on September the 4th. And I can't tell you why Ashley took her life on March the 22nd. I can't tell you why Scarlett took her own life on April the 22nd, sorry. I can't tell you why all of those people took their own life. So many people. Like, off the top of my head, I don't want to like name like too many, but off the top of my head, I can think of at least 10 people that I know that have took their own life locally to me, and that is so sad. And do you know what? As well, within like this period as well, is that all these people have all known that I prevent suicide. They all know that I spend hours and hours and hours every day preventing suicide, and I still do spend hours and hours and hours every day preventing suicide. But there was a point when, in 2007, in January 2017, when we first opened the SAP chat, I literally did not come off chat. I was on chat all the time because I wanted to prevent suicide. And do you know what? I prevented so many suicides, and I'll never forget the first person that I saved. I'll never forget him. He ended up ringing me up. He was called Frank, and he lived in London. And no, he didn't end up ringing me up. So I ended up coming through on Snapchat, and we ended up speaking. And he was very, very traumatised. So I thought, you know what? I'm just gonna call him. So I thought, right, I'll call him. So I give him a call, and he was like so like depressed. And do you know, off the top of my head, I can't remember what happened. I can't remember his background, but I remember speaking to him, and I was speaking to him for weeks and weeks and weeks. I think it probably a total period of like 4 weeks that I was talking to him, on and off the phone, messages, and he just weren't getting any better. And then he ended up voice noting me, and he said, Dan, it's too late. I'm gonna jump in front of a bus in 10 minutes. And I literally, do you know what? I didn't actually hear that message, didn't get that message until like 7 minutes later, because I think I might have been sorting my little boy out, but I remember listening to it and I was so panicked. So I rang him and I was speaking to him, and he was crying his eyes out. He was so in pain. And do you know what? I was so in pain for him. Like, it was just so traumatic. Like, I got it, completely got it. I got how he felt. Like, I could feel all of it. And I spoke to him, and I took him away from that part, and I sat, and then he ended up sitting down on the curb, and he just sat there, probably in shock, to be honest. And then we ended up speaking, and he didn't end up taking his life that day. And he went quiet for a bit, and then I remember he rang me up, and he was telling me, he was like, thank you so much. And he was so appreciative of me, and he said, if you didn't actually stop me that day, he said, I wouldn't be here today. And he's got like a new job, and like got himself like settled and happy and stuff. And I was like, that is amazing. And just from like saving him, I just knew that this was what I wanted to do. And do you know what actually happened as well? So after I lost Brian, I'll talk about Brian on a few episodes in, because obviously I don't want to like go straight into it. Kind of just waffling on this one and like introducing myself a little bit. But yeah, so what ended up happening when I was actually wanting to prevent suicide was I was a hair extension technician. So, and this area you can earn quite a bit of money. So I was doing that, and after Brian did that, I went into work the next day, and I sat down with my client. She was like, are you alright? I was like, yeah, I'm alright, thank you. She said, oh, has anything happened? I was like, I found my stepdad last night after he took his own life. She went, why are you here? I went, do you know what it is? I just need to just keep busy. I just need to keep myself distracted. I can't stay at home any longer, because I didn't sleep the night before. And then I just opened my shop. So we're only a little shop, and you know, I was so happy that I had this little shop, because I was making steps. And you know, when you're just making steps and like you're independent, you don't have much, and you have to build it all yourself, and you start making steps. I was just making steps, and I had a really good relationship, and everything was like so good. And so I went into work, and she was like, are you alright? I was like, yeah, I'm fine. And do you know what? At that point, I think I was fine. I was in shock, so like I was able to keep a composure of what it was bizarre. It was almost like I was on autopilot, but I wasn't. And so what ended up happening was I went to work, and then not after that, and then so yeah, that's from the hair extension. So I was doing hair extensions, and when I I had to close my shop because over the weeks upcoming, like I couldn't keep up with what had happened. So eventually it started to grab onto me. And it started to grab onto me to a point where I just couldn't function properly. And the only thing I could think of was this suicide that had just happened. I didn't know how to stop it. I didn't know how to stop it. My relationship started breaking down. Everything just started breaking down. So I was within no control of anything. So I thought, I don't know what to do. So what I wanted to do, because I was so traumatized. I wasn't talking to anybody. I wasn't healing. I wasn't like, I wasn't getting any help. Like, as far as everyone was concerned, I was okay, but I wasn't okay because I was behind closed doors. I was absolutely traumatized, and I was crying on the floor. I was screaming. I was in a lot of pain, but even thinking about that just gives me like little bits of goosebumps. It was really sad. It was a really really sad part of my life because everything broke down around me, and I just didn't know what to do because I didn't have a mum or a dad for support. My brothers weren't around. I'm a little boy, and he was like 2 or something. So if I were crying in the bathroom, he'd come looking for me and he'd bang on the door and he'd ask for mummy. Mummy, where are you? And I'd had to just shake my head, wipe my tears, get up, open the door and greet him with the biggest smile. I had to just do that because I didn't want him to go through what I was going through. And that was a really difficult part for me because I had to hide. There's a lot of times where I just used to run off. So I'd just get in my car and I'd just go. And I'd just go and drive off and I'd just go and sit and I'd scream and I'd just process it that way. It was really difficult. So with this movement, I couldn't actually keep up with hair extensions. I couldn't actually keep up with the progress that it needed from me. Because I think when you're in that kind of industry, you have to keep up. And I went into a salon and someone called me weird, said I didn't fit in. And then there were other parts, and there were a lot of places where I felt alienated. And I just felt like I was in the wrong place. Like, yeah, I had hair extensions in, so I looked like I could be there. But I don't fit in. I never fitted in with the salon. I'm not that kind of girl. I think in a lot of salons you have to be like that progressive, like aim for achievement. Like you've got to have like money on your mind and to a degree. And I was never like that. So I would always keep the cost low because I never wanted people to be out of pocket. Like I would never agree with somebody paying £350 for a full head of hair extensions. I was like, what? Right, okay, so they're getting that hair from fucking Mars or something. Like, it's got gold in it, babes. No, to be fair, actually, that is the going rate these days. But back then, when I was doing them, like, 350 was, like, plus some. So I would never charge that. And that's where I started to, like, falter as well. Because I weren't earning enough to be able to progress with it properly. So I think in like the salon industry, like if you have a salon you have to be able to build it. I just weren't making enough to be able to replace like the things that I already had to make it look like it was part of a salon. So from this and from like not being able to sleep and going through what I went through with the suicide, I thought I'm gonna have to prevent suicide. And little did I know it was preventing suicide again. But when I started trying to do outreach, I contacted some places and I asked them if I could do some volunteering. They never got back to me. And then I started a Facebook page and I changed its name to, I can't remember what I changed it to. I changed it to something. I changed the logo to another suicide prevention organisation that was in America. And I said, let me support you from the UK, but as a UK organisation we can link up. They said no. And they told me to delete the profile picture. I was like, alright, okay. Sorry. Sorry, I just want to prevent suicide. I literally just want to prevent suicide. So I just made my own and I just started sharing quotes. But the quotes were healing me. So like the very first quotes that I ever shared, they were like my broken hearted quotes. broken heart from the suicide, from my relationship breakdown, from my loss of business, from complete life change, to realising like I had no support, and then like there was so much. But do you know what it is? So I think from any like life movement, life trauma, you are who you are. Like if I didn't go through what I went through, if I started deleting parts of my past, I wouldn't be who I was today. And I'm quite proud of who I am today. Like I won't speak badly about anybody. I can completely own that. I won't speak badly about anybody. I'm monogamous. I will not speak to two people at the same time. I will not paint somebody in black. If I've got a problem or I've got an issue with someone, I'll either just not speak to them again, or if I do have to continue speaking to them, I'll bring the problem forward and I'll ask them the problem or to resolve the problem. And I think like there's been a lot of character building with myself, and I've had to understand a lot, I've had to learn a lot about myself. And there's been parts where it's been difficult because I felt like an alien, and I thought, I think from not having like a dad from a very young age and a mum, well of course I've got them both, can't say from not having them because I do have them. It's like an absent parent. From having an absent parent, it kind of like creates independency. And over the years, and with not being able to have anyone to go to and kind of having to like readjust myself, I have done a lot of character building, and I've done a lot of understanding, I've done a lot of re-leveling, I've done a lot of like, I've done a lot of trauma building. There's been so much that I've gone through as a sole person to not want to remove anything that I've been through. So like there's nothing in my past that I would change, although a lot of it, not a lot, but well, a chunk of it has been traumatic. I still won't change it because it's who I am today. And if I didn't have those parts, if I had like supportive parents, if I had like wealth, and if I had like good health, maybe I would be a different person. But I'm not. I am who I am, and I'm always me, and I am actually very strongly proud of that. I wouldn't change. I don't want to change because of what I've been through and what I've overcome. And you know, I think a lot of people should want to be proud of that and who you are today. You want to be proud of who you are today, especially if you've overcome trauma, especially if you're still standing. Like if there's been points in your life when you haven't wanted to be here, and there's been many parts in my life when I've not wanted to be here, and I still am, and I'm proud of myself still being here, and you should be too. I will. So this is my first podcast. Like this is my first podcast. I think I've done alright. So we're coming on like 50 minutes. I think I've got like another 2 seconds left in me, and then I'm cutting it. But I think I'll probably listen back to it, see what's what, see if I have to cut anything. I probably won't cut anything. I think maybe keep it raw. I don't want to become like one of those people that has to structure anything. I made a podcast for a reason, to keep myself flowing, to be able to just talk and not have to have limits on or anything like that. I want to be able to just be able to vent or just chat or lift you up or just come on talking about suicide prevention. And you know, because there's so much to talk about in suicide prevention. There is so much that I want to go through, like there's feelings, there's different mental health disorders that we can go through. Like I've done psychology, so all that to go through. Like I just need to make sure that some of them are going to have to be structured. Some of them will have to be structured. So either that, or I'm going to have to put like little sticky notes around me so that I can kind of put like, right, first 10 minutes, chat about this. First 2 minutes, chat about this shit. Next minute, da da da. Do you know what I mean? Because I don't want to read off like a piece of paper, because I can't actually do that anyway. I really struggle with that part. But I'm wrapping it up now. I'm gonna listen to see if it's listenable, and hopefully get some more out and catch up with you all soon. My voice is going now because I've been chatting for that long. But anyway, peace and love. Keep it real.